But let's move into the next segment. We're going to go 11 through 20. Ricky, start us off.
Well, starting off... Wait, weren't you going to do that thing first?
He wants you to do, before we get to our next segment.
Yeah, just any of them that you haven't mentioned.
Yeah, no, for sure. Before we get to our next segment, just want to drop our Patreon in. I know I did it last time in the end of the last segment, but I want to do it now because I was told to do it, and I was going to do iTunes, Patreon, and then Blog Talk Radio. So I'm going to do Patreon now, patreon.com/mostofitpodcast. If you do want to be on a podcast, check out that $10 tier. You can come on every single month, pick one topic, and talk to your favorite podcast here on Most Of It Podcast. Or you could even, go with the $5 range or the $2 range.
Not even that. $2, $1 gets you that exclusive Patreon podcast,
which are going to be really weird.
Yes, extremely weird. I wonder what we're going to talk about when us three do it. But we'll figure it out, and maybe you can listen if you become a Patreon. But let's move into the next segment. That's 11 through 20. Ricky, start us off.
Well, starting off at number 11, the Utah Jazz going to go Nasir Little, the forward out of North Carolina. Then at number 12, the Celtics via the Grizz going with Dave Ball. Did I say that right? Ball? Not Ball. Ball. Just wanted to make sure I'm saying it right. Ball, the center out of Oregon. Then his teammate, Lewis King, the forward, going at 13 to the Hawks via the Mavs. Then the Celtics via the Kings, going with Luguentz Dort, the guard from Arizona State. Pistons at 15, going Darius Garland, the point guard from Vandy. Then at 16, the Hornets going with Brandon Clark, forward from Gonzaga. Then at 17, Sekou Demboya, the forward from France, going to the Heat at 17. Lakers taking the gaff man, Daniel Gafford, centered from Arkansas. 19, the Spurs go with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, guard from VT. And then rounding it out at 20, Celtics, again, this time via the Clippers, go with Charles Bassey, the center from Western Kentucky.
Dave, 11 through 20.
Sure thing. My number 11 pick is Keldon Johnson going to the Jazz. At 12, I've got Bull going to the Celtics. At 13, I have Romeo Langford falling to the Hawks. 14, I've got the Celtics, another project, Sekou Demboya. At 15, I've got the Pistons taking KZ Okpala. 16, Hornets going Brandon Clark. 17, I've got the Heat taking Kobe White. At 18, I've got the Lakers also taking Daniel Gafford. There's a theme here. At 19, I've got the Spurs going Jonte Porter. And at 20, I've got the Celtics taking Jackson Hayes.
My guy. The guy I wanted to talk about last 1.0, 21 through 30.
Yeah.
Loved him. Love seeing you guys come around. I see Ricky even got him in his
I'm going to make
draft
a change because I didn't realize I have the Celtics going with two centers. Dietrich Lawson going to the Celtics at 20 instead of Charles Bassey.
There you go. I mean, Bobo isn't for sure a center.
I see him as a 4.
Yeah, he's
in
a
my mind.
4 or 5.
You know what? I'll leave it then. Charles Bassey to the Celtics.
Very cool. My 11 through 20. 11, I have the Jazz taking Darius Garland, guard out of Vanderbilt. At 12, the theme continues. Bol goes to the Celtics, the center out of Oregon. 13, Hawks via the Mavs go Keldon Johnson out of Kentucky. 14, Celtics again go Sekou Demboya. 15, Pistons go KZ Okpala. Dave and I look very similar outside of the Keldon Johnson and Romeo Langford. 16, Hornets going Jonte Porter. 17, Heat going Luguentz Dort. 18, we have the Lakers going Daniel Gafford. 19, Spurs going Charles Bassey. And number 20, the Celtics going with my boy, Naz Reid. Fell off a little bit, but still love him. I don't care if he's lazy, love him. I love him.
He's got all the talent in the world in his body.
Like I said earlier,
he puts in some hard work.
If we were picking straight from the 30 guys in our mock draft to play 2-on-2 and Zion was off the board, I think Naz Reid would be my second one. Just because I think in a 2-on-2, 1-on-1 setting, Naz Reid would turn it up. When it comes to a team game, I don't know if he's really all there. If basketball was a 1-on-1 sport, Naz Reid's a talented kid who can ball out. Anyways, we are going to be talking about the Celtics 3 picks in this segment. We're going to be talking about Bol's injury. We're going to be talking about KZ Okpala, Jonte Porter, the Lakers as well, and then we'll all talk about one prospect that we like. And let's start off with the big man, Bol, center out of Oregon. Had surgery on his foot. He's going to be out for the rest of the season and has declared for the NBA draft. So, guys, let's talk about that injury. You guys mentioned it a little bit on the Primetime podcast. It wasn't fully announced that he was going to be out for the season, but you were acting like it was. So are you not really shocked, is it? But is this the right choice for him in your mind?
Absolutely. Like I mentioned to Dave, because at the time where Dave and I talked about it, it was he had already missed 3 games. There was like no timetable for his return. Even his coach, Dana Altman's like, yeah, he's being reevaluated, where I'm like, that's not good. When you're a big guy of his size with that injury And to me, like, this is like, I just start slowly raising that red flag. And I'm like, I'm not waving it yet, but it's here. And I've got my arm up.
And the reason why some people might be, it's a stupid question, of course, go into the NBA. My thing is, is it going to tank his value so much? And so far it hasn't, Dave, because obviously he's still a lottery pick. But, did you have any inkling that he should return or possibly try to push it back to return this season to try to at least save his draft stock and try to, stay in the top 10? Or do you think this is a smart move?
Are you thinking in the line of like a Kevin Porter where he forced himself back at the end of the year? Just be like, Michael Porter, thank you.
Yeah.
Where he's like, look, I'm healthy. I can totally still play basketball. And then we haven't seen him in the NBA this year.
I think the thing more is that his was I think Michael was doing it more to not give up on his team.
Okay.
And I think that, even if he performed well in that, like the medicals are still the medicals.
Yeah.
And that's what really raised red flags. And he even had to get a second surgery after he was drafted.
Correct.
So maybe it's, self-preservation, which I'm fine with, but I just worry, like, is it going to hurt his draft stock too much where if he came back next year, would he be able to be like a top 5 pick again? That's the only thing that I would be questioning and weighing, but then you also run the risk of injury. So
I mean, here's the thing is he was mocked as, basically a 4 through 8, early on because he is a 7'2", 3 with a 7 foot, 9 wingspan, something in that range. And he's potentially not done growing yet because why not? I mean, that doesn't change. His draft stock basically doesn't change unless it is a serious injury that has a chance of reoccurring at a high level. I think that's the thing is I'm happy it's not a back injury. I'm happy it's not a ACL, MCL. Like, as far as injuries go, foot, you can have an issue with it. And yes, there is a chance it can reoccur and it could take you out, but it's not on the same level of severity as those other 2 injuries. So I say it's not the worst case scenario. He still is who he is. He's offensively gifted. He has a unique skill set and body size to do something that very few men in the NBA have ever done. So I think that he's pretty safe on his draft stock, and I would honestly not be surprised to see him stay right in that, late lotto to mid lotto range. Like, if he goes anywhere from like 6 to probably 15, I think he's locked in that rate. I don't think anyone could take. I don't think he makes it out of the lottery. 0 chance he makes it out of the lottery. But I think there's a better chance that if we see him healthy and moving come combine time or during workouts with a team, there's a chance he goes right back to where he was. I don't think there's any need for him to come back in college and play a single minute. I think that's a safe bet on his end.
And I think the thing with what you were saying was there's no way he's going to fall out of the lottery just because he is a risk. But
correct.
You look at the Celtics, the team that we all had him going to is, the first shot they had at him, they take him because the talent is there, but the health isn't. Yeah. And the Celtics have 3 picks in this range, and obviously they can take a shot and a gamble on this kid because if he is a top 5 talent and he doesn't have that injury, if those injury problems exist, you as the Celtics, a playoff team with 3 picks in this range, go out and get the possible, take a shot. Why not? Yeah. You have plenty of bullets to waste. So that's the thing where, maybe
and they can redshirt him too. Yeah. Like, that's the thing is he is on a timetable of his own to come back at this point. And that's the thing. I would not rush anything. And even if you feel like you're 100% healthy, go ahead and take some time in the NBA. Let the Celtics doctors decide what's best for you because I don't think that there should be any rush to get you back playing because your body needs time to heal. Well, not only heal, but like he needs time to grow into his body a little bit better. And I don't know that he ever will. Like, he'll never bulk up and be like yoked out, but like I still think that there is definitely some muscle he can put on in the right areas that'll help him sustain better at the NBA level. Not quite Harry Giles level bad where he had to like completely rehab for a full 2 years basically to get his knees back to the point of like, hey, I'm a great athlete again. But I think that something along those lines can be done where he's not on that instant timetable to play his rookie year right off the bat, being on a team like the Celtics where they have, like you said, such draft capital and so many picks, and then they've got tons of contract room to make decisions. So I think that is like the ideal situation for him is that he falls to the Celtics.
My biggest thing with at least, Bol is then the comparison of KP. And KP's had 6 injuries since he turned pro. One of them was a foot injury. So it's like, is this already the signs of him cracking and breaking down? Again, this is set off by, the reason why Michael Porter went to the Nuggets and we all thought it was a steal, or I thought it was a possible steal after I did the draft thing, was because this is a playoff team. Obviously, they're number one team in the West. They don't need a Michael Porter Jr. But if he comes back and he's ever healthy, that's an immediate boost for your team. So my thing with the Celtics is you don't need him right away. You could take this shot and not waste anything. But I do have serious concerns still about his career because he's already getting injured. He's already breaking down. We haven't seen him go up against NBA-level bigs yet in his college career. What will he actually do at that next level is still a big question. And then also, can he even stay healthy to prove that? That's a big question I still have with Bol. And that's not going to go away with him getting injured.
The first thing, before I go off into what you said, it's like I'm looking at a tweet from Sam Viceni from The Athletic. And he says he wrote about Bol. Most executives at that point felt that he was a risk, but a risk someone would likely plunge into, taking somewhere in 5 to 10.
Yeah.
And then he goes, yeah, foot injuries are big. Foot injury for bigs obviously makes that murkier. And for me, that's why if I'm in the top 10, wouldn't, obviously with this foot injury as of right now, I wouldn't touch him. But the Celtics, the true question is, are they going to keep the picks? If they keep the picks, I'm right with you. Let's take them.
It's house money.
I've got how many? I've got what, 4 picks to work with in this draft. Let me go ahead and take them. I can stash them. I can do whatever I want with them. Or they could use it if they're going to trade. Of like, hey, who wants this pick?
Yeah, right now they're dealing with 12, 14, 18, and 12, 14, 20, and 22. So what is the likelihood that they keep all 4 picks in your guys' mind? Is this something that they do use as ammo to make a trade? Not like an Anthony Davis trade or possibly an Anthony Davis trade. Is this ammo that they try to use to make a trade to help this team now? Or is it something that they use all of these picks and possibly try to move up? Or is it something that they're going to keep all 4 picks? What are your guys' ideas?
4 first-rounders for Justice Winslow.
My
OG.
first answer is Danny Ainge is still the GM, correct? Then 0% that he keeps all of them. I don't know if it's for a big free agent. I'm even thinking of maybe
not free agent.
Well, like if it's like, hey, we're gonna use them to get somebody from a different team. For me, they could move up. I'm thinking Danny Ainge, though. It's more of like, all right, 12 rolls around. Who wants something? Because the guy that I want, I don't really want to reach for him here, and I want to try to get something out of you while giving you what you want.
Think they're
at
going to dive
12.
up?
They could, but like I look at Danny Ainge being the guy that's like, unless he really likes somebody that's ahead, he's going to be like, the guy I really like is below 12. Who can I sucker into?
If there was a player in the top, say 8 to 10 range, from 1 to 10 range, like who would they try, like fit wise? What do you think? Obviously, I'm taking Zion off. No one's going to trade Zion basically for 4 mid-round firsts. But is there a prospect in that top grouping that you think the Celtics would find intriguing enough to move some draft capital for?
Nope. The only thing they need is a big who can rebound. They haven't been able to rebound for the past 3 years. Still have not been able to.
I'm with you.
They need somebody who can rebound. I do not see anybody who makes that happen. You don't need another wing on that team. You have Gordon Hayward, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
If they want a Morris, obviously.
Yeah, Morris as well.
Yeah.
Then you look at the guard position. They have Marcus Smart, Kyrie Irving, Terry Rozier. Like, what does this team need outside of a rebounding big? I do not see that in the top 10.
And that's not the top. Exactly. That's my thought. Is there? I'm with you, Ricky. I think
there's only one guy.
One guy.
And that's Hachimura, but I wouldn't pull that trigger.
I don't see him as
like he's the only one
big.
that I could see. Like, yeah, he's not a rebounding big, but like if Danny Ainge falls in love with him and thinks that he's going to be a next great player in the league, then the Celtics would pull a move. Otherwise, no. The one thing I will say, we talked about him in the first segment, Nasir Little, the Celtics would be a great spot for him because A, he wouldn't be expected to contribute right away. He gets to work with Brad Stevens, which, like, if you're talking about, if it's like, hey, it's not Nasir's fault, it's the coaching's fault, Brad Stevens is not going to be like a guy that's as hard-headed as what it may seem like Roy Williams is. He'll actually work with Nasir, maybe get the most out of him in that year that we thought he'd be a project. That's with me more of like the Celtics is who can they take in that in this range is that they can develop and really, because how many of these guys do you really say like, oh, I'm going to take him because he's going to contribute right away to this already nicely, I don't want to say stacked, but nicely put together team.
Yeah, I think that if Bobo fell to the Celtics here, Brad Stevens would throw a fucking parade. Like, he just big old grin, like, yep, that's my pick. Next.
I mean,
I don't think there's very little hesitation on his end because he's such a unique prospect. And the rest of them, they can look for stashes or they can try to trade back for future picks going forward. If somebody feels like, hey, I really like Lugan Stort, and you're like, I'm not feeling him. I'm not feeling him moving forward. Go ahead and you can jump up, take this pick from me, and I'll take yours next year.
Unprotected.
I mean,
it's Danny Ainge, so they're going to get like something dirty.
You look at mine, if Darius Garland is still there,
my God,
what are the odds a team then jumps up to 12 to try to get that point guard that they want because of how, like, that cliff of, like, Ja and then everybody else?
Well, here, let me change the question then. Do you think they're going to come into the draft with 4 picks? And do draft day trades, or do you think they're going to make trades this year?
I think it'll be draft day.
They will be trades on draft day. Do they leave with all 4? Probably not. They'll probably leave with maybe, unless they like swap picks, they might leave with 4 later, but they will not leave with the 4 picks that they originally had coming into the night. That's what I think.
Right. I think that they will not be picking 4 times. I agree with that. I think there possibly is a move to be made this year, and if it is, I definitely see them going after and trying to get a rebounding big at some point this before the trade deadline comes up. Not sure who their dancing partner will be, but I definitely think that, again, like, obviously they need scoring, and that's something that has not been consistently there for this Celtics team.
But they've got the guys. It's just, you need a consistency out of them.
And that's why I'm like, you don't need like a big name player. You just need somebody who can rebound. And it's not like an Aaron Baines level player. Like, you need somebody who can be like kind of pushing Horford for that spot. And maybe that is a guy like, Vucevic. And maybe, you play with those picks and try to get the Magic to get rid of them for like, that 20th pick or that 18th pick. Because, the dip between Horford and Vucevic, it is there. Horford's a better player. But Vucevic is a better rebounder. And if you're, struggling there, do you possibly try to get Vucevic, who's not going to bring down your offense, might even boost it a little bit with Horford, at least scoring-wise. And then, you have that rebounding big that comes in. I think that that's definitely in play, that this team tries to go out and gets a rebounding big this year to help them, because Golden State looks weak. Milwaukee, although they've been fantastic, I don't think they're a for sure NBA contender yet. Same with Toronto. Toronto and Milwaukee haven't proved it yet. This is the Boston team that's gotten to the conference finals 2 years in a row. So I think this is something that, try to get that piece to fully make this the deepest team in the NBA. Use this draft capital, and, draft day's not really going to help you this year. And I think the Celtics are in a position to make a move this year to help them win this year. Because again, the teams in the NBA, it's more even than it's ever been, but it's not as top-heavy as it was with Golden State. I think the East is more winnable than it's ever has been, and I think the Finals is more winnable than it's ever has been.
So with what the order, let's say the order it is what we have right now, and I'm using my mock, obviously, as the blueprint, because both of you had Garland going before the Celtics 12 pick. For me, if I'm the Celtics, I would maybe think about moving that 14th pick and maybe doing a pick swap with either the Pistons, Hornets, or Heat, because those can all be teams. The Pistons, I obviously have them go Darius Garland because I'm not sold on their point guards right now, and if he's there, go ahead and take him. The Hornets, if they're not really sure that Kemba's going to sign long-term, they might be in a little bit of panic mode, like, do we get that point guard? He's still there. And the Heat, like, the only point guard on their roster is Goran Dragic. He has the player op. Obviously, I think he's going to accept that, but he's the only true point guard you have on your roster. They could even trade up 3 spots for a point guard, and then the Celtics could trade down, and then they get maybe a center that they like, and they get closer to Gafford's range and could take Gafford at either like 16 or 17, and then boom, there's a guy that helps you and exactly what you need.
For sure.
Give you that sexy name for a rebounder they should go after before the season's over. Ed Davis.
Good old Nets.
Brooklyn likes him a lot.
Brooklyn
likes him a lot, to be fair. But I think for front pick, anybody's movable.
What's that Davis's contract like? Didn't he have a bad contract?
No,
4.4.
They got him on a good deal, honestly. Nice. And he's an energy guy.
He was only 6 for Portland. So yeah, that's not a bad deal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that.
Good energy guy, great rebounder.
I feel like it needs to be if you're trading a first though.
Oh, you're not gonna get a first for him straight out. Yeah.
You need a little bit. No, like you need a little bit. Like if you're giving up a first, you need.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Ed Davis is not worth a first round pick on his own.
But like Ed Davis, the 28th, and
or what if
yeah,
D'Angelo Russell is thrown in the mix for 2 firsts?
Ooh.
So D'Angelo Russell, Ed Davis. I don't know what's going back to Brooklyn.
Kyrie better would break a leg. That's what we're expecting. That's why they need D'Angelo Russell so bad. They need some ice in the veins.
No, but hell, I mean, it's going to bring offensive firepower, and he's going to be a restricted free agent. Like, and you just paid a ton of money to Spencer Dinwiddie. Like, I don't know, get something for the kid.
You're crazy.
I know.
You're crazy, Joe Rogan.
It's so hot in here. So
I know.
I'm just throwing out anything. Let's move on, though. Let's go to KZ Okpala. That's the next in the order, because then we got the Lakers and Jonte Porter coming up. Dave, we both have him going to the Pistons. Ricky, you have him going to the Pacers. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to say why Dave and I are so high on him yet. Why do you have him at 27? What are you seeing that possibly we are? What are you seeing that we possibly aren't? I guess
I am just not. I feel like from you guys and mainly Dave over here. Dave has said before he falls in love.
Shoveling the hype train.
Well, he falls in love with players and then he drops them quicker than look at Lugan's door. You were so high on the first mock. Now you're like, well, he's trash. He's out of here. He hasn't played well in 4 games. So it's like I feel
I'm a
like
fickle man at
I
times.
feel like KZ. It's like
I
with
settle in
me.
later.
I'm not high on him. He is rising on mine. He's now in my mock. Maybe a little bit of me, especially from Dave's mock, is like, oh, this is the guy Dave's high on. Let's see in the third if he's still high on him.
I just see that so far, what I have seen from him, the kid's a stud. And maybe he's not playing up against the best competition. I just called Pac-12 trash.
Yeah.
But seeing his ability to score, seeing his handle, like you said, he was a guard that sprouted up.
Yep.
I'm loving what I'm seeing from this kid. And I do think that he does have the potential to push lottery. I don't know if he's that next level yet, but I do think he can have that ability to push and possibly push that envelope to be a lottery pick. What downsides do you see of his game, though, Dave?
He's still growing his shot. He's got a solid form to it, but the confidence isn't there yet. Ball handling wise, he has a really good handle for a guy of his size. I think he's still very much learning how to use that size to his advantage. He doesn't work the low post nearly as much as he could at 6'8" right now. And honestly, the matchups he gets are usually advantageous to his end. So I'd like to see him start to use that more. He's got a quick stride to the lane. And when he's in the paint, I'd like to see him finish more. He settles for floaters and some weak layup-ish. I guess it looks like he's just throwing up there sometimes. So yeah, I'd like to see him. Obviously, he's a young kid, and I get it. Like, he grew into this all of a sudden. It's sudden growth. So like, he doesn't have the muscle there yet to really body down low. But what I'd love to see is he puts on some muscle. He's got a great handle for a guy, and for his size at 6'8", I'd love to see him aggressively throw down more, because he does it a couple times. You're like, oh shit. When he does that, and you watch him, it's like 3 strides to the lane, and it's like, oh, it's so clean. But he doesn't do it. He doesn't rely on that as much as he could, because it's just free points. So all around, ton of potential. Yes, absolutely ton of potential. Defensively, you're basically going, he plays okay defense. He has the potential to play better because of his size and his frame. Mm-hmm. It's there. It's just we're not going to see it at this level. That's my thoughts.
He's a guy too that he grew in high school, and it's just insane that he sprouted as much as he did. And then the other thing too, in reading about him, his parents are from Nigeria, and one thing that I read and really stuck out, his parents told him to never stop working. And like, you read stuff like that, and we talk about a guy like Jaylen Brown, who came out of the Pac-12, who always wanted to get better, always wanted to learn. Like, I don't know what Jaylen Brown has to do with KZ Okpala, but at least think about mental makeup. Yeah. I think that that's something that is huge. And with being a guy who grew up as a guard, we saw this with Anthony Davis. Having that ability and being able to exploit people who aren't your size with your speed and your handles, and then also being able to grow. That's why I'm not too worried about the shot. That's why I'm not too worried about the body, because once you hit the NBA, you'll be able to fill out a little bit more. And this kid has a lot to fill out, because he is 6'9", grew a ton in high school, and never really filled out a ton. And he looks like he's even got skinnier from high school to college.
He didn't put on weight. He just got taller.
Exactly.
He just stretched him.
Well, no, but even in high school, he was 6'8", and he looked like chunky. Now he looks like he did the opposite of a freshman 15. and like lost some weight or something. He's fitting in at 6'9", 180. Like this kid has room to grow. And he came in as a 4-star prospect. Like he does have this ability that was seen in high school, and it's not like it came out of nowhere. And you see it now translating to college. The biggest thing that I do want to see is just him go up against better competition and what he's going to do in a night in, night out basis. What you laughing at, Ricky?
I'm going through Twitter, and one of the tweets is Bill Walton just asked if KZ Okpala is related to Jay-Z.
That's solid.
Pretty good.
Do you think he can sustain the high level of shooting he's at right now, though? That's the thing I wonder. I'm like 47% from the field and 48% from three on just under 3 attempts a game. I think that is. Oh, look, his shot's good, but like I don't think it's that good.
Well,
no offense to him.
One thing you look at it is you look at the game against Kansas. Big game, goes up and shoots 3 of 5 from 3. Up against UNC, goes 1 of 2 from 3. And you look going to Kansas again. This is at Allen Fieldhouse of all places. Goes 5 of 6 from the line. There's some shaky nights where it's like 6 of 12 against San Jose from State. 6 of 12 from the line against San Jose State. But again, like there's 11 of 13 game against Seattle. Like he's shooting 74% from the line, which doesn't make me worry too much about a shot. And again, being a guard, like that really taught you to like shoot from the outside and try to exploit using your speed. But it's when you're a guard of that size. I know I'm not a crazy talented basketball player, but my options when I was playing basketball, at least in grade school, was either drive to the lane and attack the basket, which I was afraid to do, or chuck up a ton of threes. So I think that the ability of getting into the mindset of shooting is there. And I think that's something that is big for a player is you have that mindset and you can always work on it. And again, going back to what I talked about with his parents, giving him that work ethic. If he's able to take that work ethic, putting into a shot, I think that it can become consistent.
KZ Okpala, to me, what I think is, and what kind of plays into this too, is conference play is going to hurt him, I'm going to say, because I feel like he's going to be underrated, overlooked, because the Pac-12 is overlooked, where it's like, what big teams, what big stars do you have in the Pac-12?
No one stays up late to watch Pac-12 games.
Thanks, Brandon. But, I mean, the thing that I look at is the biggest thing that will help him is if he can bring Stanford to the tournament. If he brings them to the tournament, get that national eye on him, then that'll help his draft stock more than, he played well against the Pac-12, now he's going to the NIT.
You're the college guy. Is there a chance Stanford makes the tourney?
I mean, they could win the Pac-12. Like, anything is possible. The field is so big.
Being that Oregon's completely injured this year?
Oregon's completely injured. Lewis King right now hasn't been having the best start since coming off of his injury. And, I mean, Sean did mention, like, some of the other games. Like, yeah, they lost against Wisconsin and lost against Florida, but that Wisconsin game was close. They took Kansas, who was the number 2 team, to overtime. Yes, I know they lost, but if they win enough of these conference games, and let's say they win the regular season crown, they win the tournament crown in the Pac-12, that could be enough. I just think that has to be the goal for KZ.
You bring up Wisconsin, Florida, his 2 worst games on the year.
His 2 worst, but I mean,
going 2 of 12 from the field against Wisconsin and just 1 of 5 against Florida.
And doesn't that show like if he's not putting up 20 a game in the biggest games, they're not going to win. So I think that shows that he's important to the team.
Is he not a big time player when he's faced with top level competition?
Go look at Kansas, the number 2 team in the league. They took him to OT.
Yeah.
You look at it against
I'm just trying to make a case that
I don't think that's it.
I like the guy a lot, and I'm trying to bring myself back down to reality, Sean.
And the thing with KZ is, I know Twitter is a interesting place, but just looking at some of the tweets from the UCLA game that happened yesterday, it's really hit or miss. Like, there's some that's like, some team's going to be dumb enough to take KZ Okpala in the first round of the lottery. Then there's other ones like feel like KZ Okpala will end up being the best NBA player out of all the guys in this UCLA Stanford game. So it's like, it's really like you either love him or you kind of hate him. Where it's like KZ is their best player. You've got other ones that are like, I don't care how bad the Pac-12 is. KZ Okpala's game is built for a modern NBA.
Yeah, and I think one thing too is if we'll see when the talent gets tested, most likely if he does make it to the title. And right now they lose to UCLA, and there was a 90 to 72 game, wasn't close. But again, like you were mentioning, there's no killers in the Pac-12. They got USC coming up, Arizona State, Washington. Like their toughest are probably going to be Arizona State. If we're talking historically, UCLA obviously just fired their coach. So it's not great that they lost to him, but I think we'll have to wait a little bit more once we get into conference play, because not only is he not going up against great competition, but he is conference play, and those games are always a little bit tougher. They are a little bit more heated. They're going to see you twice. What is he going to do against UCLA the next time? Is he going to be able to pop off again
at home?
Exactly. So like I think one thing too that's going to be big is how are you going to do the second time a team sees you? Are they going to be able to slow you down? That's a big thing that I think also plays into this that I'll be looking for KZ during conference play. Let's move to Jonte Porter. We're going to get rid of the Lakers. They need a center, pretty much. JaVale McGee's on a one-year deal. We all go Daniel Gafford because Zubac is there, but again, how much mobility does he have? Tyson Chandler is also going to be possibly going to. You need some bodies to fill out there. Daniel Gafford, I mentioned it last time. Pretty athletic kid. I think that he's got a JaVale possible mold to grow into in some ways. So I think it would just be a natural fit, and he's probably the best talented player, at least at that position and available.
Most proven, at least.
For center. I mean, Jackson Hayes is there, but I think we'll talk about it a little bit in the 21 through 30. Let's just get to Jonte Porter. I have him going 16. Dave, you have him going 19. And then Ricky, you have him going 26. My thing with Jonte is this kid was a top 14 pick before he got injured, or before he went back into the draft. He pulled out of the draft last year. We had him late lotto, and then he pulls out because he wanted to go back to school, got injured. The talent is there, and in this draft class, I do not think you pass up talent. So if he's healthy, he's going to be probably pushing a lottery again because he was a lottery player last year. This is a worse draft. It's just deductive reasoning. I don't see a reason why he cannot be a lottery pick again. And I think when it comes to draft time, he will be pushing in that 17 to 12 range because, again, this is a kid that had talent, was showing it last year. And the biggest questions about him will be injuries. And obviously, you look at his brother's dealing with injuries, but it's a different injury.
And all those knee injuries as well.
But can you have genetically bad knees? I have no idea. I'm not a doctor. So
my question is, he's the guy who notoriously came in out of shape and unathletic to the combine, now coming off of an ACL injury. I mean, does that not just completely scare you? Like, that's literally the reason, like, we went back because he had the worst, I think it was cone drill, like, ever. Like, he was so unathletic and short, angular movements. It was just, I'm just saying.
My thing right now is people deserve second chances.
Okay.
And if he does come in shape, and he does come in motivated.
With an ACL injury, how well can you prep yourself?
No, for sure. But that's the reason why he's taking a whole season off. Yeah. So if he does come to that point, and he does show that he is healthy, he does show that he's motivated, he does show that he took that time to grow as a person and as a player, I think he's going to be. It
was ACL and MCL, wasn't it, for Jonte?
Yeah, but I think it's still the same time length because typically if you tear one, you're tearing the other. I think that's how that works. Obviously there can be solo ACL tears, but if you're tearing that part, they're so joined and connected that they end up both tearing or both being at least.
We need a doctor on this podcast.
They both being at least suffered.
For me, I look at it and, I mean, it's not all of like, yes, the whole thing that your entire family and that both of your sisters have had multiple knee injuries doesn't really help because I look at that and go, I wonder if it's just weak knees in that family. If it's just there's something in your genes going on. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But I look at it when you say 12 to 17, 12 is way too high. I look at this knee injury and I go, for the position that you play, you know what? I wouldn't take you at 12. I would maybe take him 17 would be the highest that I would think about it.
Because at 12 right now we have Ball who is injured, who has questions about his health.
Because one's a knee, one's a foot. Like
173 who has genetically shown that is not able to add on muscle and might not be able to add on muscle at all, and 7'3" players have much more injury concerns than 6'11" players.
The ceilings are very different as well.
But also the floors are completely different.
Say Bobal's like healthy floors, like what Boban?
And let's be honest, one of the
Boban level impact.
I'll speak for me. One of the only reasons
because of his health.
I have Ball at 12 is you look at the ceiling. Look at the team I had him go to, the Celtics. They could take that risk.
Yeah, we all had that idea.
Yeah, if they weren't there, he wouldn't be going at 12. Like he'd be falling even further if I didn't think, hey, the Celtics could take this risk. he would not be going to the Celtics, the Hawks, or the Celtics.
And I think
Pistons
the
probably
Hawks
wouldn't
would.
take him.
Well, but here's the thing. I think Jonte's less of a risk than Bol Bol when it comes to health because 7'3" players do not hold up. They're fantastic to watch. They're special. But there's reasons why a lot of these 7-footers do not have mobility, throughout their whole career. I mean, Shaq was one of the most mobile and dominant players, but there was a sign at 33, he starts slowing down. There's so much body pressure that you're putting on. Like 7-footers are not able to be full-time athletes
And that's why
throughout their life because of how much they're carrying
Ball's
around.
draft stock could continue to go down.
100%. And Jonte's not 7 feet.
I
That's
also
why.
never had Jonte as high as 12. Like the highest I would have had him completely healthy right now would maybe be about 15. So like the middle of that range to that 17, where now it's like, okay, that injury, if he comes back healthy and has a great combine, then all of this is moot. But at this point, knee injuries run in your family, it seems. I would be nervous about taking him in the top 20.
I understand that. I understand that you can be worried about that, but I'm just saying, like, if he is healthy, he comes in motivated, I would not be surprised if he jumps up to 12 because, again, I think that, Keldon Johnson, I think he's a more intriguing prospect. But if you're not looking for a 3, you're not looking for a 2-3 combo, then you're not looking at him. If you do not believe Sekou Demboya is going to be a true project, then you'll probably go with him. But it looks like Sekou is going to be a project. He's going to take time. He's going to need work and love. That's why we're giving him to the Celtics, because the Celtics have that ability to store someone overseas or at least work with him. We saw that with Gershon. Yabuzli. Yep. I was watching the Gordon Hayward highlights. I think they were saying it differently, so I started second guessing myself.
Yeah.
KZ, again, another project as well. Is he going to be a guy that can add on that? And is he a guy that's just performing against a weak schedule? We talked about that already. Jonte, if he comes in, he's shown that he can be a starter. Like, he has the ability to be a stretch 4 in this league, shoot from the outside, be athletic, be a guy that can can just be an all-around
athletic
player.
is questionable.
He's a safe player. He's a safe player. And
his shot's clean, and I absolutely agree. I think that, his floor is much better. I'm not super injury sucks, don't get me wrong, but I'm not super concerned with this being a consistent, it's in the family genes that he's always going to be injured. And so
I think it's interesting that has all happened.
It's
and maybe
really
there is something
unlucky.
there, but I do not have a medical degree. So
really
I have no
unlucky
idea.
in my mind. Yeah, that's why I think he's late lotto at best. I don't know that he will stand out, because last year, I looked at last year, I was like, yes, he got better as the year went on. Yes, he had a great shot from the outside, and a stretch 4 in the NBA, super valuable right now. But I don't know that it pushes into the point where a team is going to be like, I can see building around him, or I can see him being like a 3 on my team, a 2 or 3, kind of like, Then
I look, who can I build around? And I think that cutoff goes from Bol. If you look at mine, I think, even Hachimura is pushing building around. I think he's an intriguing prospect.
Right, but that's the state of this draft.
I do not think Keldon Johnson you could build around. Sekou Demboya, I'm not sure. KZ Akpala, I'm not sure. Dort, I am not sure. Gafford, Bassey, hell no. Naz Reid, I'd love if you could build around him. But Jonte, I think he might be the safest out of all of them. Because, again, he was putting up, 18 and 10 last year? Naz Reid isn't doing that on a worse team. Dort isn't doing that. Akpala isn't doing that. He brings something that some guys haven't brought, and he was a freshman doing that. So I think Porter does have a solid resume. If he's able to come in, produce, it's going to be interesting. Let's move now to the guys.
Jonte did not put up those numbers for the whole year, by the way.
Was it per 36
His year
then?
average was 9, 6, and 2.
Really?
Yeah. He had a string of great games at the end against Vandy, Arkansas, Georgia, where each game he had 24. 24, 7 and 6, 19, 8 and 4, and 20, 8 and 2. He definitely played up at the right time of the year.
He only played 24.5 minutes per game, and I think his per 40 is 16, 11, and 4 pretty much.
Yeah, like I said, he played much better as the year went on.
My bad.
Yeah.
Also, last thing I do want to mention, this is from the New York Times. There was a study done at the Ohio State University and Cincinnati Children's Hospital. Mm-hmm. Their study says their takeaway is to look at your family. If you have a first-generation relative, a sibling, or a parent who has torn an ACL, you are likely to be at an above average risk. So, yeah, it runs in the family.
No, that doesning mean it runs in the family. It's not genetic. It just means you're at a risk.
And the risk happens.
Same as heart disease. It's the same as
if they
everything
re-tore
else.
it, you'd be at an above average risk to re-tear that ACL. That's how I'm reading this scientific
it's
information.
One study.
Well,
That's the problem.
yeah, and I mean one
I don't know if
study,
it's the
but
same
I
as
mean
heart disease.
that's
We're not doctors.
what I would go
That's
into.
what I'm saying. We should not be talking about that.
Give me your prospects.
For who I
What
want to
prospect do you
talk
want?
Lewis King. For me, I'm high on him still.
I don't understand why. Tell me
because
why I should be interested
I
in
feel
this bum playing in Oregon who's not even playing.
Well, let's get the B word out of here. He's not a bum.
It's 95 degrees
He's
in here,
a guy
Ricky.
coming off of an injury that, yes, I am a little concerned that, I mean, in the, 8 games that he's played, he hasn't really popped off. And the best that he popped off was Omaha, where he had 11 points. I still like what he brings to the table. How I feel like he is going to be the Lonnie Walker of this draft class, which was injured early, eventually finds his footing by the late of the season come tourney time, gets drafted in the late lottery. Even maybe if he falls out of the lottery a little bit, that could happen as well. But he's a guy, I like what he brings to the table. I like his shot. I just wish he was putting it a little bit together now coming off of his injury. But it's only been 8 games since he started play on December 8th.
The Lonnie Walker thing is interesting. Obviously, a little bit different players because I think Lewis King is a little bit
He's
bigger.
6'9", yeah.
But Lonnie Walker, according to 24/7 Sports, he was a 16th ranked prospect coming out. Lewis King, 20. So around the same spot, too. And obviously the injuries are similar. It's an interesting comparison to draw.
My question is, why is he so high unproven when a player, I know there's slightly different positions, but a player like Grant Williams, who I feel like has a similar skill set at a smaller position, is so much lower. But he's also performing at a much higher rate.
It's exactly what you said about Grant Williams to me off the
Position?
podcast is not just position. He's an older player that doesn't know exactly what it is yet. And if I'm drafting at 13, I'm not wasting that pick on a Grant Williams. Whereas Lewis King, there's a little bit more potential for me to make that pick over a Grant Williams.
Just saying, Grant Williams is producing at a pretty great rate right now. And I'm not bought in on Lewis King, I guess. I've yet to be wowed by him. I don't think he has lottery or late lotto, like whatever talent. And I just think that I would be surprised if he goes before 20. And I don't know if he's a lock for the first round even at this point. Because he was injured. We've seen limited play. And in that limited play, I've been unimpressed.
And that reflects, at least in our opinions, as none of us had Lewis King in our you and I did not have him in our mock draft. So I think the risk is there. I think he's an intriguing prospect, and I think the Lonnie Walker comparison that you made, Ricky, is very intriguing because again, I don't know if he's going to be able to make that rise that Lonnie Walker did. But again, like seeing where they came out of high school, very similar. Seeing the injuries and seeing if he can make that rise, it's now making that next step. But I think it is a very interesting comparison. Dave, talk about your prospect.
My prospect, I don't even know who my prospect is anymore, man.
All right, I'll just take it and do Naz Reid real quick. Naz Reid is the greatest player of all time. He is a basketball god. Per 36, I don't think you guys have ever seen numbers like this. 22 points per game, 10 rebounds per game.
So good.
2 assists per game, 1.5 blocks a game, and 1.5 steals. Name a time a player's ever done that. I'm just intrigued by him just because, again, this is a fairly weak draft class. I see the athlete in him. And like, obviously, you bring up the mention of not being able to be engaged in the game the whole time, but I think it is something that if he is engaged, I think he can be a really dominant player on the offensive end. Maybe not defensively ever, but we see guys like Cat, and I don't think he's ever going to be Cat level, but we see guys that have value offense only. Maybe like he turns into like an Urson in some ways. He turns into a guy like Marco Bellinelli in some ways. I think that he can be an offensive specialist because we saw him pop off for a ton of points before. And in one of their biggest games against Furman, he didn't get over 20 minutes. He started the game, only got 19 minutes. That's worrying. But if he is locked in and motivated, he has been able to show that he can dominate a game. So if he's able to grow, especially once we hit SEC time, they're going to start January 8th. Maybe we do see his game pick up. And there's going to be a stretch that I'm definitely interested in. Wednesday, February 6th, they play at Mississippi State. They're currently ranked. February 9th, they play versus Auburn. They're currently ranked. And then February 12th, they play at Kentucky. They're currently ranked as well. They also got Tennessee on February 23rd. So some interesting games that I will be intrigued in for him to go up against. Also, he's going to go up against good old Daniel Gafford on the 12th. So it's going to be interesting to see him take on a player that we do have ranked in our top 30. So that is going to do it. You have a guy, or you want to pass?
I mean,
on?
my guy was Bol. Like, forgot that was even a thing before this thing. We discussed that. You guys just want your Bol rant anyway. Jackson Hayes, I'll just give a shout out. Like, he's a very intriguing prospect right now. Just purely defensively, looks impressive at Texas. I think that's going to warrant a look from a lot of teams looking for a center who is a basically just going to be a monster defensively, can grab you boards. He doesn't have anything fancy to his offensive game. He barely has an offensive game, but that can develop in time. So I look at a team like the Celtics to be like, grab a spot at the end of the bench.
Yeah.
We'll teach you.
I like the pick.
Yeah.
I like the pick. I like the guy. I brought him in last time, and I'm glad to see that you guys saw what I saw in him to put him 1.0, and I'm glad that I see him at Ricky at 24 and alongside me with him going to the Warriors.